We have made it past halfway through the week. Another great show for you guys. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Remember, the phone lines are going to open at 2:45 p.m. Central. It's 1-855-236-3228. A ton of y'all have been calling in. Had a ton of new callers as well. Excited to talk to y'all. But guys, got MLB playoffs going on. But starting tomorrow, 55 straight days of football. NFL, college, NFL. Is this, David, the most glorious time of year?
Yes.
It's got to be,
Across
right?
the Rubicon. You know, Maction coming up, Fun Belt, Sun Belt, 55 straight days, and you add the World Series on top of that that's going to be coming with the MLB playoffs.
Yeah.
This is the best time of year for sports fans.
Blaine, if you could describe it in one word, how would you describe it?
Heaven.
I like that. That's a good. What's the poll today?
The poll today is who wins this game between Texas A&M and Missouri.
Not betting it, not touching it. Can't wait to watch it.
I kind of want to get involved.
You want to get involved?
I
You always
want to get involved.
Show-
I was
show us
looking
your-
at it.
show us your
Now I'm
strong
looking
hand.
at it with great interest.
Yeah, my journey.
Looking at Missouri like,
Well, if you want to get involved, David, will you tell us your bet now, or we got to wait later in the show?
You'll see. You'll
Okay.
find
Okay.
Interesting.
Sorry, I get a little antsy sometimes.
Yeah, you do. Keep your hands to yourself on this ride. Clemson looks to keep their playoff hopes alive this weekend with a trip to Florida State. Michigan hopes to do the same on the road at Washington. And we're going to give you our best early college football bets for Week 6 and much, much more. I'm Jay Crain, and welcome to the fastest growing sports show in the universe, Crain and Company. Buckle in and buckle up, buckaroos. A lot of people left Clemson for dead after Georgia ended up pulling away big in the second half in the opener. But if you listen or watch this show, we told you don't count out Clemson just yet. It's easy to not look good against Georgia in an opener, just like I look worse standing next to Ryan Gosling. But with all the young talent on the outside needing to grow and a quarterback that is capable in Cade Klubnik, this team is starting to look awfully dangerous. That's not to mention a defense that lives up to what we have expected and what we've seen from Clemson regularly lately. I get the schedule hasn't been daunting. Nobody is saying that. And their matchup against a lowly FSU team this weekend won't bolster the strength of that schedule. But optically and from the eye test, this team is starting to look complete. And the young guys like freshman Brian Wesco Jr. and Antonio Williams, a sophomore on the outside, are doing well. Add in veteran tight end Jake Briningstool, and Clemson may finally once again have some skill position weapons that can help them win a track meet or at least score some points against a top-tier defense. When you take a peek at their conference schedule going forward, there's a decent likelihood they could go undefeated in the ACC and set up what could be a mega matchup in the conference title game against Miami, maybe? Has Clemson finally arrived back into the conversation of a team that can not only make the playoff, but actually make some noise when they get there? I say yes. And it seems Garrett Riley has found his rhythm with Klubnik, and the more this team dominates, the more confident they will get. And that in itself should send a cold shiver down the spine of whoever they may face going forward, regular season or postseason. David Cohn knows a little bit about the postseason, playing at Michigan, former quarterback there. My brother knows about posting about the season, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. David, we're going to get into Michigan in a second. But when you look at what's going on in the recipe of Clemson and what we talked about even before the Georgia game, because a lot of the buzz coming out of Clemson was, hey, we got some of these young guys on the outside we're excited about. Antonio Williams is healthy now. But opening up against Georgia, that's not the time to put your best foot forward or maybe have your big introduction to college football. Not everybody's Ryan Williams. But now that they've gotten that confidence, we've seen them kind of take off. And you look at that defense, man, this Clemson team could cause some problems.
As we sit here right now entering week 6, I like Clemson to make the college football playoff for several reasons. One, that defense is elite. We've seen that right off the bat. And defense travels from week to week. That's something that you can rely on in the middle of the season, even when you're not playing your best football. But then that offense that started slow has started to figure it out. Now, I get it that they haven't played world beaters. And if we hadn't seen them open up against Georgia, if they just opened with South Carolina.
Oh, they'd be a top 5 team in the country.
They'd be top 3 in the country, and we wouldn't have as good of a sample size as we do now. So I understand some people's reluctance, but it's always better to lose early in the season than it is late. They lost to Georgia, and keep in mind, that's not a conference loss. And their in-state rival at the end of the year, South Carolina, who's starting to look good too, that's also not a conference game. So you could find yourself in a situation where you're 10-2, or maybe even still lose one conference game. Maybe you're 9-3, but all of a sudden you find yourself in the ACC championship
and then it's a
game.
must-win.
Win that, and then you're not only in the college football playoff, you get a first-round bye. But let's just say they don't win the ACC and they have to get one of those at-large bids. Still, I like their chances moving forward. Florida State, I mean, it's honestly kind of sad in Tallahassee now. Now, Clemson can't look past them. Florida State, I still think at any moment can rise up and still play some good football, but right now it's looking sad down there. So I like Clemson to go on the road, beat Florida State this weekend. I kind of like them to beat them big. And then Louisville, that's going to be a heck of a game, but I didn't see anything from Louisville against Notre Dame that made me say, okay, they're ready to take the driver's seat right now. And just keep in mind, like we've talked about all season, Clemson and Miami don't play in the regular season. So those are a few factors why I like Clemson right now to make the college football playoff. But another one is this Big 12 versus ACC conversation we've been talking about all summer long. Can one of those conferences get multiple teams in? I don't think both will. And right now, with the way that the Big 12 has been playing, I don't think that conference gets multiple teams in. So I like Clemson either to win the ACC after what we saw with Miami and Virginia Tech a week ago, either win the ACC and get that automatic qualifier, or more than likely play Miami in the conference championship, maybe lose a close game and get one of those at-large bids.
And I actually want to bring up that Clemson versus Miami point here in a second, David. I think it's a really good one. But Blaine, David alluded to something too earlier. There's not a better time to lose than the first game of the season out of conference, not just with the new playoff format, but in general, right? There is kind of a recency bias, and the committee who's going to make these decisions understand that teams evolve going forward. But when you look at Clemson overall, and if Klubnik can continue, not only with his arm, but with his legs to play well. In that Louisville game, Louisville turned the ball over. You turn the ball over against this Clemson team, you're going to lose. How do you feel? Is Clemson the best team in the ACC right now?
I think you could put them up there with Miami as one of the best. But how much have we really learned about Clemson since that Georgia game? I mean, you played App State and NC State teams that is not good. We know that. And a Stanford team that is mediocre. And you go through their schedule right now, and I'm pretty sure the best team they will play will be South Carolina at the end of the year.
Or at Pitt.
Or at Pitt. But right now, I think South Carolina is a better football team than Pittsburgh. I think this tells you more about the schedule and what Clemson can do than who exactly Clemson is. I think Clemson is a good team, but I don't think we know how good they are. You got beat to sleep 34-3 against Georgia, and we just saw what Alabama did to Georgia's defense. Georgia's defense is not the same as we're used to seeing. I think the ACC is down. All right, I think Clemson is a good football team, but right now when I look at the ACC, I don't see a national champion in this conference. Same as the Big 12. It is slowly turning into the Big 10 SEC matchup with the best teams that you're going to see in the playoff. Now, one big thing I look at this, and we talked about this with the Clemson team, how can Cade Klubnik grow? All right, and I think we're seeing that. I was seeing that with confidence and comfortability in the pocket from a read standpoint, knowing when to take off, and a lot of design runs, which Cade is good at. Look, I know defense travels, but that defense didn't travel week one. Neither side of that ball did. So until I see Clemson play somebody with a pulse, I'm not going to get too hyped up.
Well, I disagree with you. I think the defense traveled for Clemson. The defense was the only thing that kept him in the game. The problem was the dam broke. Mm-hmm. Like eventually when you play a team like Georgia, defensively, you're going in there at halftime, it's 6-0.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, guys, and defenses, and you can have great team culture. I've been on these type teams where the offense is awful and they're not going to score. It was like that crept into the back of the mind of Clemson's defense as that game went on. And when Georgia made it 13-0 or whatever, that might as well have been 35-0. And then Georgia got the momentum going forward. My question, I've been high on Miami this whole time because I believe Cam Ward and Restrepo have a better connection than AT&T in a rich neighborhood. But when it comes down to a team that can win a national championship and schedule, who is Miami beating? How can we sit here and say Miami we know is better than Clemson when there's questions on defense? right? If USF could throw, they had guys wide open, but they couldn't throw. It hurt them against Alabama, too, if we're going to bring that up. But how can I, on one hand, with an honest, full evaluation, say, man, Miami is so much better than Clemson. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you beat Florida? Like, is that what?
Let me ask you guys this then, because Miami's best unit is offense, right?
I agree.
Okay. I think Clemson's best unit is on defense, but yeah, they're putting up 59 points against NC State, 66 points against App State. Are they doing that because those teams aren't really good, or is Clemson really good and Tennessee was really good? Like, that's where it starts to play in. But right now, is Clemson more balanced? Is Clemson more balanced?
I think that's the question you've got to ask if you're going to be honest with yourself about Miami and Clemson when you look at those two teams together. And it's crazy they don't play in the regular season. Mm-hmm. I actually hope we get that game in the ACC championship.
It's like Alabama,
but I would say
Texas.
right now,
I hope we get that one.
Miami's offense is better than Clemson's offense.
Okay,
I don't think it's by an ocean, right? But they are better. I think Clemson's defense is way better than Miami's defense. Mm-hmm. Is Clemson's defense I don't want to say more better, but is there a bigger gap between the defenses than there is the offenses? I say yes. And because I say yes, and Cade Klubnik has the ability to run, like Cam Ward can when he wants to, you can make the argument that Clemson is a more complete team than Miami is. What would the score of Miami and Georgia been? It probably would have been closer because I think Miami could score against Georgia. But I don't think Miami's defense is stopping Georgia like Clemson did. It would have probably been close to a track meet, maybe even like what we saw the other night.
I think we'll find out the answer to that question whenever Cade Klubnik and that offense play another really good defense.
Louisville,
like,
I think,
if they have grown and if they have truly grown throughout the season and they put up 35 plus against this Louisville defense, then that will tell me a lot. If we just go in and we watch Clemson's offense just completely wilt and put up 0 points the next time they play a good defense, I think we'll have a better sample size of saying, oh, yeah, they're world beaters when they play weaker competition.
I mean, is your defense really that good? If you're Louisville, you just gave up 31 against a team in Notre Dame that couldn't pass.
Well, compared to what I think we're saying compared to what they've played, right? Like App State got murdered by South Alabama defensively at home. I mean, South just ran through them, like the plague. So there's still questions out there. There's not a concrete answer right now. But when you watch, you know that Clemson does have good players, right? And the more confident they're going to get, the better they're going to be, especially the young guys. I mentioned Wesco Jr. I think Briningstool is an NFL player. I think he's going to be a guy that has a chance at next level. Quickly, I want to go through, you have Clemson's schedule, Blaine. Can you pull that up really, really quickly? Because I want our audience to know just why I think there's a pretty decent chance Clemson could go undefeated in the conference.
All right, here we go. Obviously, you're at Florida State this weekend. Then you go to Wake. You have Virginia at home. That Louisville game is at home. Go on the road at Virginia Tech. Not an easy win there. On the road at Pitt. Prayers up to Citadel. And obviously, you finish the season versus South Carolina.
I mean, the two road games, if Virginia Tech keeps playing like they're playing, like consistently, I know that they had a good showing at Miami. I like Clemson a lot because I think defensively they can really give drones some problems. Pitt is sneaky. They got Cade Bell, who came over from Western Carolina. I believe he's Kerwin's son, was the OC there. The offense has been totally rejuvenated. Really excited for the Pitt fans and what Narduzzi is doing over there after struggling last year. But, man, that is about as favorable of a schedule as you can get, even in the ACC, which I agree to your point a little bit, Blaine. The ACC, I guess, overall is a little bit more down than what we thought because the middle may not be what we thought, but I think they're better overall.
There's not a great team in the ACC.
No.
There's not
team. Not yet. Not yet. Not somebody we can look to and say, man, if a team outside of the Big Ten or the SEC is going to win a national championship, it's definitely going to come out of the
But really,
ACC.
what's cool is, like, you can find fault with almost every team around the country, and now Georgia has a loss, but they did come back against Alabama, which, kind of made Alabama look bad in the second half. Texas starting quarterback is hurt. We hadn't seen the Buckeyes play anyone. Oregon has. So all around the country right now, there's questions, which I think is good for college football.
And I do want to say on the Big 12's note, if Cam Rising comes back and is healthy, I think Utah could be a problem. But are they going to lose too many games before he comes back, or is he ever going to come back, or whatever? You can't trust him because the man's been hurt 75% of the time the past
Which I will
years.
say this, too. Isaac Wilson, he can play football, man.
He's
the kid is good.
Like,
Utah is fine with him for the future. He does some really
and
good
BYU's interesting.
Some of those turnovers are just a true freshman having to go out there and start.
And I've thought about this. Cam Rising's not playing because of a finger.
I don't know.
Hand.
Well, he has a. If you look, he has a cast on his finger, right? His middle finger walking around. I'm going to say, if you're there for your 40th year and you're getting held back because of a finger, dog, move on. Move on. Like at this point, if I'm a Utah fan, this is our guy. Little Wilson's our guy.
Well, this has become the norm now.
Yeah.
If you're a Utah fan, as much as I like Cam Rising and we like Cam, and they like Cam Rising, the norm has been that Cam Rising's not available. And you don't know if he's going to be available or not. But David, quickly, does Florida State have a chance this weekend because DJU's not playing?
Yes, because that's the craziness of college football. The second you have a sure thing, that's when everything unravels and you get upset and get beat. I am still going to take Clemson. I'm going to take Clemson big. But if you're in the Clemson locker room right now, hey, you need to be on to Cincinnati.
Well, that's exactly right.
I do want to say one more thing about Clemson, though, real quick, just in terms of them making the college football playoff. Where it could get interesting is if you have a non-conference loss or two, right? Like let's say you have a loss to Georgia, which they already have, but then also South Carolina, and then an ACC loss, but you still find yourself in the conference championship or something, and then you pick up that third or fourth loss in the conference. That's where it starts to get dicey. Like that conference championship loss that puts you at 3 or 4 losses, that's where it gets interesting.
Well, and then you got to look at Notre Dame too, right?
I know.
But like you've got to look at Notre Dame and see if they're going to be a team that's able to go 11-1 and get their way in there, because I don't think 10-2, as bad as the committee wants Notre Dame in there, is going to put them in. My worry about Florida State is I think once SMU got up last week, they mailed it in. You've brought in a bunch of transfers. You're 1-4. At the first sign of trouble this week, you're going to hear boos. You're going to hear people being upset. Do they mail it in and Clemson runs away with it? That would be, if I'm Mike Norvell, you got a lot of stuff to worry about. Ton of stuff to worry about. But that would be number one on my list. Like, how long can we hold the rope? Right? If it's going good, you're going to be able to stay in the game if it's a close game. But what if Clemson comes out and gets up 14-0? And then all of a sudden it's here we go again. And that malaise sets in on the sidelines. And the fans are starting to boo. Blaine, new quarterback for Florida State because DJU's hurt. They get a shot?
Nope.
It's going to be tough.
I don't think so. I don't know how.
After the Kentucky-Ole Miss game.
I feel like Florida State might get up for this game. If there's ever a game you could turn around a season that's beating a big dog like Clemson.
And they'll be in Doak Campbell.
But I think it's right now Mike Norvell's in trouble. This team's in trouble. There's not a lot of belief walking around in this locker room for Florida State. And, Jake, I agree with you. If it goes bad early, it could turn into an avalanche, and then it gets really bad. So I hope not. I hope this is a good football game. I think there's a reason this game keeps getting bet up for Clemson. I think it's at 14.5, 15.5 now. It's just sad to see after what Mike Norvell did for a Florida State team last year, brought him to the highs of the highs of the Alps, and then kind of got robbed with Jordan Travis. To see a program just fall off a cliff like that tells you a lot about what the transfer portal can and can't do for you.
Yeah, it can be your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on how it goes. But you know what Florida State need? They need a lot of energy in there. They need maybe a clean shot of energy with no sugar or caffeine, David. They need to check out Ketone IQ.
Ooh.
Now, we all know that carbs are life's greatest gift. I'm half Italian. I'll out-eat anybody when it comes to pasta. All right, you give me the breadstick and pasta or soup, whatever, all you can eat, I'll destroy that. But due to modern diets and sedentary lifestyles, I don't think I said that word right, sedentary lifestyles, we often eat more carbs than we need and we store the excess. All right, it prevents our body from running on ketones, which reduces your energy, makes you gain weight you don't want, and you get chronic metabolic diseases. And none of that sounded appealing, all right? But that's why Ketone IQ, it's good for you, and it'll get you going in the best way possible. They work closely with top Olympic athletes, Des Linden, Michael Andrews, to Ironman world champion Sam Ladlow. Ketone IQ is unlock the benefits of drinkable ketones. There's no Y in this. This isn't a piano, people, all right? It's a shot of energy. It's way better than the other ones out there, and guess what? It's going to get your metabolism going, and it's not bad for you. Like I said, no sugar or caffeine. And for a limited time, you can save 30% off your first subscription order and receive free 6-pack of Ketone IQ when you go to ketone.com/booster. That's ketone.com/booster for 30% off your first subscription order. I'm telling you, try it out. We drink it all the time. It is fantastic. And it really does work, and you can feel it after a couple days, too. You're already feeling better, got a little more energy, and you're doing things you never thought you'd have the time to do, David, right? Working on the yard, right? Hanging out with the dogs, solving Sudokus, Rubik's Cubes, all type of things. So check them out, KetoneIQ.com. All right, let's get to the chat here.
All right, Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. A lot to get to today. We're going to start it off with the Cribbo. What's up, man? He says, how's Clemson's defense way better than Miami? Miami is ranked 15th in the nation, and Clemson is ranked 100th.
Well, I think the second half of the Georgia game kind of distorts that. I go off what I see. We can look at numbers, and that's great. I'm not saying numbers don't matter, but when you look at the way Miami plays and they stick in man coverage the whole time, and they've struggled, and that was one of the worries, right, in the secondary coming into the year for Miami, was how is the secondary going to be able to play? You do get Ruben Bain back. And again, I'm not saying there's an ocean-wide difference between the offenses of both these teams and the defenses, but I think it's hard to sit here and say, if you watch Clemson operate, that you think Miami has a better defense than they do. But we're going to find out. We're going to get some answers. We're going to get some carryover games, right? Clemson's going to play Virginia Tech. We're going to see Miami play some of these teams moving forward. And I tell you what, that Cal game where Miami's going on the road, it's a little bit, I know it's a 10.5-point spread. We're going to get to early bets. That's quite an interesting game. But again, I don't think there's a wrong answer here between Miami and Clemson. I think we may know more about Clemson because they played Georgia overall than we do about Miami. But that's not saying either one overall is better. Maybe one's more complete. We're going to find out.
I think it was good for Miami to get tested against Virginia Tech, though, too. You go beating everybody by 45 and you think you're the best team in the country.
Sure.
I think it kind of jarred them awake a little bit.
For sure.
Let's go to the Guru. He says, what growth have you seen from Cade Klubnik? He looks like a completely different player this year.
Well, I think a lot of what you've seen had to do with the personnel around him. Like, I think sometimes we get, whether it's sports media or fans, are like, man, because the quarterback's going to get too much credit and too much of the blame. But football's the ultimate team sport. It seemed like the past couple of years, even with Bo Collins last year and Shipley, right, there wasn't enough around Cade to make those explosive plays to make up for the mistakes that he was making. It was like he was trying to force the action because he didn't trust what was around him. And I actually thought the play calling, and I think Clemson fans will agree with me, especially early in the year, in the red zone with Garrett and Cade wasn't great. You know, the zone read stuff is not as prevalent as I think it was last year. You're seeing some more quarterback design runs, but he has more help. Guys that can score. Sometimes if you got to score runs in the game, you need to hit a home run. You're not going to be able to single people to death, right? And that's what it felt like Clemson had to do last year. They had to methodically march down the field, and they couldn't hit big plays consistently to rack up enough points to be able to win some of those games. So I think it's not just a product of Cade growing. I think it's a product of what's been around him, having a tight end that's a matchup nightmare like Brining Stool, but having Wesco Jr., right, and Antonio Williams get healthy, and these guys that can make some of these plays, that's going to make you look better as a quarterback, and you still have a good run game, right, with Maffa. You have a legitimate run game with a quarterback and a running back, which makes defenses have to prepare for both.
Let's go to John E.K. He says, Clemson is not a contender. Stop it, fellas. Clemson has not played anybody. It's easy for Klubnik to progress when you don't play anybody with a pulse.
It's a South Carolina fan, huh?
Yeah, I would guess. And again, the argument is, who is out of Clemson and Michigan and some of these other teams in the periphery, who do we think could be more dangerous? I'm telling you right now, and they may end up being fraudulent. You never know in college football. But there is momentum. It's real. Teams evolve, right? And that's why I said on the open, the schedule hasn't been daunting. But you could say that about many teams, right? Look at what just happened to Ole Miss. They lost to Kentucky at home after playing a weak schedule before. We're going to find out. Will they evolve? Will they be able to bounce back? But I think saying either end of the spectrum is wrong. I think saying, without a doubt, we know that Clemson is national championship good right now is wrong. And that's not what I said in the open. But saying, no, they're definitely not a contender, I think is also wrong. The answer is probably somewhere in the middle, and we've got to continue to find out. But we can still ask the question.
Let's go to I'm Down Bad. He says, how many L's have to be in the L column for Norvell to be on the hot seat?
David, what do you think?
Man, it's a really good question. I mean, last year they go undefeated, and he proved that the transfer portal can work when they Frankenstein teams together like that. Like, it's going to be bad this year. Like, it's going to be like a 4-8, maybe even worse situation.
Maybe 4-8.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be frustrating for a lot of Florida State fans, but, I don't know. You can't move on from this guy.
He's not going to get fired after this. Yeah. He's not going to get fired after this year, but if you do go 4-8 or 3-9 after you showed the fans what, you did last year and they expected, there was a lot of big expectations. Well, he can fix DJU. We tried to tell you DJU is unfixable. Not
this is worse than that.
Like, this is worse than, no, David, you're right. Problem. It's worse than that. But it's going to be so bad this year where he will be, I think, on the hot seat next year. You can't go 3-9 and 4-8 at some of these places unless you've won national championships. Mm-hmm. This would never happen. But let's say Kirby Smart, after winning 2 straight national championships, went 4-8 the next year. He wouldn't be on the hot seat in year 2. But that's not what happened with Florida State. That's why getting left out of the playoff and Jordan Travis getting hurt hurts even worse. Because if you could have made a run, and let's say you lost in the national championship game. Well, you go 4-8 this year. Look, he got us in the national championship game. Everybody relax. But you didn't. And then you got destroyed in the bowl game by Georgia. So let's think about that. You get destroyed in the bowl game by Georgia, and now you're 1-4 staring at 1-5, which means you're 1-6 over the last 7 games. If that puts you on the hot seat.
If you just kind of missed on a quarterback and he wasn't as good as the one you had the year before, then you'd be looking at what Tennessee did last year with Joe Milton coming off of Hendon Hooker, and you still go 8-4 or something like that. That's what you'd be looking at. Going 4-8 or worse, or 3-9 or whatever they end up being, that speaks to a lot bigger problems. But I still think, you had 12-0 last year, won the ACC. You can't get rid of this guy no matter
you
how
can't. It makes you unfireable the next year when you do that, unless you do something off the field. All right, one more. We got to move to Washington, Michigan.
Let's go to BT. He says, who's the most fraudulent team in college football right now?
The most fraudulent. I haven't given up on this team, but I was so disappointed in their lack of being ready to play that I'm questioning their maturity.
Oklahoma State?
You know what? Actually, you're right. I was going to say Ole Miss, but I think you're right. I think it's Oklahoma State. I think that's exactly right. No, that's the perfect answer. Why not? Because, again, we're sitting here saying a lot of people about Oklahoma State winning the Big 12 before, right? And you haven't seen a lot of improvement on that defense, and it's gotten worse offensively than what you did last year when you returned, 20 guys from that team? I think, Blaine, is there another team you think? I think Oklahoma State's the right answer.
Well, I never believed in Oklahoma State in the first place, so that probably.
Well, we're talking national perception, not personal.
I don't know how you don't say Ole Miss. I really don't. I mean, especially with the hype that came into Ole Miss this year, the transfers you got on defense, this roster is built for you to win a national championship. The first team that you really play is the Kentucky team, and they just beat you up up front on both sides of the ball. So I don't know how you can look around the landscape right now. If Miami lost to Virginia Tech, I feel like we could have an honest conversation there. But right now, it would be Ole Miss for me.
If they lose to South Carolina, I'm with you. If they lose to South Carolina, I'm with you. All right, let's get to Washington, Michigan here, Dave.
Yeah, rematch of last year's national championship game. Right now, Washington's favored -2.5, and you can get Michigan on the money line +115 to +120.
How surprised are you that Washington is favored?
I am a little bit surprised. I am. I thought this line would be more -2.5, -3 Michigan, and force people to say, oh, if I want them, if I want to take the money line, it's like -135, -140. So I am a little bit surprised. But I went back and rewatched that Washington-Rutgers game. What a weird game, an odd game. I mean, Washington threw for over 300 yards, which is great to see Will Rogers back in good form. Had some injuries at Mississippi State, dealt with the passing of Mike Leach, transfers to Washington. Boys, you don't almost be the all-time SEC.
Was it red zone?
Yeah, it was the red zone. He threw for over 300 yards, and Washington ran for over 200 yards on this Rutgers team, and they scored 2 touchdowns. They missed 3 field goals, 2 fourth-down conversions they didn't get, 1 on the 1-yard line. Had a block kick that they had against Rutgers called back that Rutgers scores a touchdown. Just really weird stuff. So I think Washington's going to be able to move the football against Michigan. The question is, when the red zone constricts you, will they be able to score touchdowns? Because I do think Michigan is fairly good in the red zone when they're not committing penalties. That's the biggest question for me. And then for Michigan on offense, when you're having to deal with this 3-headed monster of Kalel Mullings, Donovan Edwards, and Alex Orji for 60 minutes, that's a problem. You thought Rutgers was running the football on you? Get ready to deal with this for 4 straight quarters. So I'm a little bit surprised to see Washington's favored, even though I'm not surprised that the game is within a field goal.
I think this is one of the best dog bets on the board. I know we're going to get into bets. I would grab this now while Michigan is on. I think this line's going to move to either a pick'em or Michigan -1. And I know teams are different each week, right? That's the hardest thing about coaching is trying to get that consistency week in and week out. And Washington is an incredible environment, right? Their home field advantage, it's amazing out there. And I have not been on the right side of predicting when I've gone against Washington in the past, really picking Oregon over them. And they put a hype film out that emphasized that. I appreciate that, guys. That was funny. That's what I was talking with Nick Sheridan about when we were down at the Senior Bowl. We were laughing about it. But Michael Penix Jr. isn't out there, right? Roma Dunze, Polk, McMillan, that offensive line that was incredible last year, it isn't out there. And I don't think the defense is the same, even though they've been a little bit better than what I thought they were going to be. I really like Michigan in this game because if you struggle once that 12th defender comes into play, which is the red zone, right? I actually think Minnesota coming back on Michigan the way they did last week was the worst thing that could have happened for Washington. If it was a blowout game and Michigan, was really confident, maybe overconfident coming into this game, I think mentally I would feel better. But this just seems to me to be one of those games, when we saw Will Rogers at Mississippi State, as good as he is, he will put the ball in harm's way. And I think Michigan can stop the run on this Washington team and make them one-dimensional, which they can win with one dimension with Will. But I think Michigan, man, I really like Michigan 24-13 or 24-16 in this game. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. It's not, what you would think of when you think of Washington. But if you struggle to consistently put the ball in that rectangle with the paint in it against a Rutgers team that we got a lot of respect for.
Oh, yeah.
They're good on defense, right? And that's no knock at Rutgers. I think Michigan, after last week and giving up what they gave up, that defense is going to come out really hungry. I think this is one of the best dog bets on the board.
So, Blaine, what do you think? I mean, this is a Michigan team that has bounced back really well from that loss against Texas, but they are getting outplayed in the second half and outcoached in some areas in the second half of games, which is different than what we've seen the last 3 years with Michigan.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that fourth quarter collapse this week that we saw in Michigan last week. One thing I want to point out, if you go back to the Rutgers of Washington game, as good as Rutgers defense is, you have to give kudos to Washington. How many sacks did Rutgers have? 0.
Yeah.
Right? That's not going to happen again in this game. Whatever Rutgers is on defense, Michigan is that times 2. I like Michigan in this game. It's hard to go back-to-back weeks, physical, ground, run down your throat football teams, and that's what Washington is going to walk into. This is going to be a game, which most Michigan games are, is let's play a game of how tough you are. How tough can you be
find out early.
for 4 quarters, right? Alex Orgy threw it 18 times last week. I don't want that.
That's way too.
I don't want that. I don't want anything more than 10. This is going to be a low-scoring game. If I bet anything in this game, I like the under at 41.5. I don't think that's a crazy bet. That's what I'm most comfortable with. But right now, if you're Washington, you got to force Alex Orgy to make mistakes. When he does throw it, you have to make him make those mistakes. Will Rogers, great piece, but Rutgers never touched Will Rogers. They never got to him, right? Never made him uncomfortable. What is Michigan known for doing? Go ask Miller Moss from USC. That kid probably was in a church the next 24 hours praying after what happened. So this is going to be a great football game, but I think Michigan's defense will be the difference in this game.
One comment on Orgy real quick. He had the real bad interception that was to Colston Loveland, even though Donovan Edwards was wide open on the rail route. That was a bad interception, and I get it. We can talk about it. But he threw some balls. He threw a couple basic routes in there where I was like, my goodness, if you can just throw it that well, combined with what you're already doing, mostly being one-dimensional, Michigan can be a really good football team, because early in his career, we were like, okay, this is too inept to be able to even be the starting quarterback. He threw a couple really good balls that surprised me. You can't turn the football over, because that's why you're in there instead of Davis Warren.
Without a doubt. And Rutgers is so well coached. And I know they gave up some yards, but they held up in the red zone. But Michigan has better athletes overall. Talking about the sacks, right, and making plays. Not that Rutgers doesn't have good athletes, but Michigan has some really elite-level athletes, especially on that defensive line, that can get back, not just stop the run, not just two-gap, but Wink Martindale can't overthink this now. Like, if you're dominating them, you don't have to come up with these exotic blitz. You don't have to turn into the Joker, right? You just need to be Bruce Wayne, man. Just, hey, here's what we got. We're rich. Be rich. I don't have to invent other ways to get rich. Just be rich on defense. Don't do too much. Don't over-blitz. But speaking about blitzing, you want to blitz the bank account in a good way, not in a bad way. We are so excited to be partnering with our friends over at Prize Picks.
Yeah.
It's the best place to go to get real money sports action. They've got over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. It's a daily fantasy sports app. It's accessible to all, which is huge. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash, and you can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They've got multiple sports that you can do your daily fantasy on. It is a fantastic product. Everybody's using it. We're going to start posting our Prize Picks starting this weekend. We're super excited. You can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, guys. And even if one of your players gets injured, all right, if your player leaves in the first half and he doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup alive. This is one of those places where, like, it's like they're rooting for you. They're giving you every chance, right, to get a good outcome. And it's fun to look at, and it's different, right? It's different than what you're used to. Personally, I love playing it. I have been playing it for a while, and then they hopped on board, so now I'm like even deeper into it. You look at MLB and all the other sports, they got you locked in, and you can you post about it. If you went on Prize Picks, we want to see it. And it's really simple. You just download the Prize Picks app today, use code BOOSTER, and you get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code BOOSTER, all right, BOOSTER, on Prize Picks, and you get $50 instantly when you just play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's literally guaranteed. It's free money. They also offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, which we all love. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks, run your game. Use that code BOOSTER. It is an absolutely fantastic product, and we are so jacked that they're sponsoring the show because we absolutely love what they do. All right, I want to get to best bets, but quickly, the phone lines are going to open here in 10 minutes. Let's get back to this chat for a second.
All right, let's go to Smash the Numbers. He says Michigan has a legit path to 7-1 going into Oregon.
Yeah.
You beat Washington, you regroup over the bye week, then beat Illinois and Michigan State. That is all.
Which is incredible after what we saw week 2.
Without a doubt. Do I think Michigan is a team that can do a lot in the playoffs? I don't. Do I think they're going to get in the playoffs? Right now, David, I just don't.
I still think the ceiling's 9-3.
It's probably 9-3, but you never know when you have that style of play and you can muck stuff up.
Yeah.
Right? Quickly, though, does Michigan kind of remind you of Kentucky a little bit? Like a little bit? Just a little bit?
Maybe.
I mean, you muck it up. You play their game.
Yeah, if we're saying that a quarterback throwing the ball 18 times is way too many, then yeah.
Yeah, probably. All right, let's go to another one.
Let's go to Willie T. Willie T, what's up, brother? He says, games like this, if special teams matters that much. If you watch Washington and special teams last week, it was disaster. 2 even teams. I'm leading Michigan because of the third phase.
It's a great point. That's a great point.
All right, let's go to whatever. He says, Alex Orgy is Milroe 2.0. I'm laughing. Washington better watch out. How can they possibly overcome 86 passing yards and 12 rushing yards?
I can kind of sense sarcasm there. I'm wondering if you're being sarcastic. Look, now I like Orgy. Who doesn't, right? But at the end of the day, he ain't Milroe, and it ain't even close. I actually think Milroe's a better runner than he is, David.
Yeah.
I believe that. We know he's a better passer.
All right, let's go to JP. He says, look, if I'm Michigan, why not? Just screw it. Go to the wishbone. You're that type of team. You can win doing this.
Dude, I got a year of eligibility.
Hey, I
know that offense.
In a way, that's kind of what they've done. I literally said after the Texas game, hey, man, put in a couple triple option, right? Let's get under center. Let's, put on some Army tape, some Navy tape, some Air Force tape. It's kind of what you're doing. I mean, the RPO is really just a triple option with a pass at the end of the day. But no, it's kind of what they're doing.
Which I'm a little surprised to see they're not doing more zone read. Yeah. They're not running a lot of it's either a true handoff or they have quarterback designed runs for Alex Orgy. There's not a lot of read this defensive end, and when he crashes, I pull it, which I thought was the whole point.
That's not a hard thing to teach.
I thought that was the whole point of going to Orgy with this offense. Maybe they're saving some stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, one more.
I was going to Price. He said Michigan hasn't left Ann Arbor this season. Orgy has to show me that he can throw forward passes on the road.
Well, I think they'll attempt 4. I say this all the time. Going on the road sometimes makes you better, narrows your focus. And we may say that this week. And remember, if you donate and it's on topic, it will get read. Let's move on here. Guys, before we get off my lawn, let's get to some best early bets here for week 6. Remember, if you're going to make your bets, head over to betonline.ag, use that code BOOSTER, and get a 50% sign-up bonus of up to $250. David, let's start with you. What are some ones you like early?
All right, here's what I've penciled in so far. I like Penn State minus 27.5 taking on UCLA. Maybe too many points for some people out there, but I think Penn State's that good. Now, one thing they have shown, especially against Illinois, like they can play the Boa Constrictor type game and just say, hey, we'll win by 14 and we're fine with that. I just think against this UCLA team, especially with it being at home, I like Penn State. I've also locked in Georgia and Auburn under 52.5. My thinking is there, if it's any sort of close game, it needs to be low scoring for Auburn. But then there's the other side of it, is if it becomes a blowout, like is Auburn just not scoring at all? So I'm taking the under. Toledo minus 5.5 against Miami of Ohio. Remember, those were the top 2 dogs we thought in the MAC. I haven't been that impressed with Miami of Ohio so far. I'll take Toledo -5.5. Clemson -15.5 right now is -105 on the odds. You can even get plus money if you want to go up to -16. That's against Florida State. We talked about that one. Again, Michigan +120. I like them money line. We'll see. USC -8.5 at Minnesota. I think is interesting right now. You get the hook right under 9 there, and that's -110 on the odds. Then the last one for me is Iowa State -12 taking on Baylor.
Yeah, and Baylor again. I mean, you lose that game to Colorado in the Hail Mary, then you go to BYU, and BYU jumps out this huge lead at your place. You fight back, and you still lose it. It's just been heartbreak 2 weeks in a row. All right, I need everybody to listen and lock in right here. I got a parlay for you. All right, you can take them individual. That's fine. This is America. But I got a parlay, and I haven't even put it in yet, so I don't know the total odds, but here's what I like. Syracuse. Loving what happened with UNLV after the whole Sluka situation. Unless there's something in Cuse mode, I know is a Syracuse fan in there. Tell me, Cuse, if I'm missing something here. But they're at +6.5 at UNLV. I'm going to get that up to +7.5 because I don't live in the world of 6.5.
I'm going to put your odds in while you're going.
The winner. That's at -139. Then South Carolina's at 9 or 9.5 right now. If you're going to put it in a parlay or even individual, buy that puppy up to +10.5. That's -132, which is pretty good money there. Then I like the over in Oklahoma State, West Virginia at 65.5. If there's one bet out of the ones in this parlay I'm not just absolutely in love with, it's this one. But I think this could turn into an absolute track meet. Then Clemson, -13.5. You can get that at -134 right now. Michigan, get them up to +3.5. That's -143. Then I like Florida on the money line at home versus UCF.
Sorry, I got lost.
I think that's all right. Sometimes it gets lost in translation. I like Florida money line. That's at +120. Then I like the Miami Cal over at 55. That's at -108. The money's actually on the under right now, but I like the over. And then Georgia Tech. I know Duke's undefeated. It's a great story, but so was Hansel and Gretel, and we know what happened to them. I like that. I like the Ramblin' Wreck at -9.5 at home this week at -110. I think we throw all those together.
You got a little parlay there on all those?
Yeah,
okay.
I like it. I like it.
All right, I love it. I might have to do that one myself. Good slate this weekend. Not great, in my opinion, from a betting standpoint, but one I do love that's out there already. Tennessee -13.5 on the road at Arkansas. I think Tennessee's a better team on both sides of the ball and special teams. We can kind of go through all these. I like Clemson as well. If I'm going to bet Clemson, I'm going to go ahead and get that game at 13.5. Buy that down 1 point, 2 point, whatever book you use. And another one, I'm not going to bet Michigan money line, but I would love to get Michigan at +3.5 on the road, get that field goal cover. I think that's a good bet. And I also like South Carolina +10.5 at home versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss hasn't proven to me yet that you can do it against a good football team, a team that especially is good up front. And I also like the under at 41.5 in the Washington-Michigan game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points on both those sides. Other than that,
who's Kent State playing?
Kent State is playing, I believe, Ball State. I'm looking for the book to
No bye weeks.
And
no bye weeks.
Sure, I might be mistaken, but Kent State might be favored.
Let me ask you guys.
Really?
Wow. Let me ask you guys a question on the South Carolina one. So let's say Lenore Sellers comes out and he's starting. He goes a drive, right? Just not healthy enough to be able to complete the football game, and Robbie Ashford has to come in. You still like that bet there if Robbie Ashford's playing for South Carolina?
Now, I think Lenore's is good. He's coming off a bye week. And he played Akron the
week
before.
Shane said that, like, at practice, he can do everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but we're not going to know. Look, nobody's 100%. You stop being 100% when you're born. But, like, where are we at? Like you said the other day, is it 75%? Or is it 90%? Like, that's a big difference when you have a running quarterback, not just a guy sitting back there in the pocket trying to pick people apart.
And I do quickly, and I know this game usually is kind of weird, but I love Ohio State -19.5 against Iowa. I really do. Me and David were talking about this earlier. I wouldn't be surprised, and he said this, if this game is 14-7 at halftime, and you walk up, you look halfway through
35-7.
Fourth quarter, they're winning by 40. Yeah. I just don't believe. Look, I love what Iowa's trying to do, and change their offense, throw it around a little bit. I know you ran the ball great, over 200 yards last week. That's not going to happen this week, right? And you only had 60 yards through the air. So I just think that Ohio State will slowly constrict Iowa. And those athletes they have on the offensive side for the Buckeyes, there's no way that they'll get held back in this game.
What early bets? Anybody in the chat throwing in early bets in there they like?
Yep, let's go to, had a donation here. Chattin' Bussy, what's up? He says, what's our thought on MSU +24.5?
Who do they got?
They got Oregon.
Is it on the road? I'm trying to remember. Is it on the road or is it +24.5? I feel like this Oregon team is starting to hit their stride. I'm nervous about betting against Oregon right now because at some point I think they're going to evolve into the team that a lot of us thought they were going to be before the year.
It's at Oregon.
It's at Oregon. I'm a little nervous about that one.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Alan. He says, isn't Iowa plus 20.5 point spread against Ohio State a bit insulting to the Hawkeyes?
I don't think it is insulting. I actually think, I'm with y'all. I think there's a decent chance Ohio State covers this. I know that Iowa has kind of fixed the turnover problem a little bit, but their penalty situation is through the roof. It was a mixture of penalties and turnovers. Now, Ferentz came out and said, well, we fixed the turnover problem a little bit. Now we got to work on the penalties. I don't think when you play a team that's as big as fast as Ohio State is, it makes it easier not to commit a penalty. It makes it harder not to hold. It makes it harder not to pass interfere. It makes it harder not to try and, grabbing a guy like Judkins, you grab his face mask. So I'm sure on different books it's different, but I think if you get him at 19.5 or 20.5, I'm fine with it. I like Ohio State there.
Let's go to G-Man. He says, what's our thoughts on Army minus 11?
Who do they got? You need to look that up real quick.
One way to find out.
Army looks really good, man. I know Navy's undefeated, but I think Army's the best of
they got at Tulsa.
Academies. At Tulsa, 11.5.
You look at Army's schedule at Tulsa, UAB at home, Eastern Carolina at home, Air Force at home, on the road at North Texas, obviously Notre Dame, who is gettable, then UTSA at home, and obviously you finish the year.
You beat Notre Dame. I think Army may be your team.
Here's Tulsa's 3 losses. They lost at Arkansas State 28-24. They lost at they lost against Oklahoma State 45-10, and they lost at North Texas 52-20.
Yeah, give me Army.
That's actually a really good bet. Let's go to CJ. CJ, what's up, man? He says, what's our thoughts on Auburn plus 24.5?
I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Knowing Auburn, they'll probably, lose by 20. It'll be a tight game, and they'll fall apart at the end. I just can't bet on Auburn to do anything good. I'm sorry, I would love to. I'd love to join you in this march.
Is this the week? Is this the week? Shock the nation.
David, you know what? If it was just with Auburn, if it was just the personnel, but they were doing the little things right, the clock management was right, and they realized, hey, we have to play almost perfect to win the game, and we're giving ourselves the best chance possible, I would say it wouldn't be a bad bet. But that's the biggest problem that I have with Auburn right now. It's not that I know it's going to take time for the personnel to get better. It does, to be able to catch up with the other people. That's even with the transfer portal, and it can happen quicker. But you can't compound being under-personneled with doing the little things wrong, too, and not meeting the big moments. And that's why I can't trust them. Good, bad, or indifferent. I don't think you make less mistakes when you go on the road to play Georgia. Maybe I don't know a lot, but I don't think that's how it happens. All right, David, it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
That means somebody's on your lawn.
Yeah, they've been on there.
All right, they've been on there. I can't wait for this one. I can't wait for this. And if you don't know, David Cohn's really 75 years old. So, David, today, Wednesday, the Lord's Day. Who needs a G off your L?
Injury fakers need to get off my lawn.
You're faking.
I know it's been a few years since I played football, but I don't ever remember seeing players pretending to be injured or coaches instructing guys to fake injuries in order to stop play. But this is now common practice in college football. Play this clip from Ole Miss last weekend. What an embarrassment. I do find it slightly ironic that this is an offensive player when usually defenses use this tactic to slow down up-tempo teams. But either way, it is bad for a sport. It's a bad look for a sport that already has too many in-game distractions. We don't need any more reasons to halt the football game. Now, it's hard to blame the players when they're following a coach's command, and it's hard to blame the coaches when they're trying to gain an advantage without technically breaking the rules, which is why it is incumbent on college football's leadership to solve these problems. Many of these situations are obvious enough that they warrant a delay of game or unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. But since we cannot know intent, and injuries are serious, then at least implement a solution my colleague Jake has already provided you. If a player goes down mid-drive, he's out for the remainder of that series. No questions asked. If he's really injured, then he's likely to miss multiple plays anyway. And if not, then coaches will be less inclined to make use of this strategy. And if for some reason, however, that doesn't work, then I have a surefire idea of my own. Any player who falls to the turf and pretends to be injured when he is not, must join the soccer team for one full season. That's right. We already have a sport that specializes in bogus injuries. Congratulations, you made the team. Grab your shin guards and report to soccer practice. And while you're on the way there, make sure you stay off my lawn.
Very good.
David.
Very good. It's an easy fix. I've been saying this since the J-Boy show.
You have.
Because that's like when it started, right? Like me and you were talking before the show, like, can we pinpoint when this really started to be a thing?
I don't remember.
And
It's
it was
up-tempo
around that
offenses.
time. Here's my biggest problem with it, outside of it just being a problem, is that you're not even like trying to sell it.
No.
Like,
did you
say
see
what you
some
want
of
about
those?
soccer players, at least they try and sell
Can
it.
y'all play those again while he's talking?
Yeah,
please?
like it's the Ole Miss one. The fact that we've gotten the arrogance of being able to just point at a player like Jackson Dart did to the Ole Miss guy, and he instantly falls down. And they always act like they got a cramp, right? That's the thing. They always act like they got a cramp. If you have a cramp, you don't just fall straight down. Like, you got to sell it. You know, like, I mean, try and
football,
walk me on the
guys.
camera here. Like, you're not ever going to go, like, straight down. You don't crumble. You're not like, oh, I got a cramp. I go straight down. Right? It's like, oh. You know, there it is. And then you go down, right? Sell it. Give me some shrieking. Sell me on it. Win me an Oscar or something. But they don't even do that.
No real one does this. You know, if you're a real one, you're not out there faking an injury. I'm going to go look at Ed Reed and say, hey, man, fake an injury.
Yeah, but like, what are you going to tell the coach?
Say, hey, fake an injury. I think it's a culture thing.
That's easy to say, but the coach is telling them to do it. It's
There's a lot of Ole
Yeah,
Miss.
I know.
There's a lot of Ole Miss clips in there.
Like, what-
That's all
it's-
I'm saying.
I think it's a culture thing.
So
Coach, no.
You would tell the coach,
No, I'm not faking an injury on the field.
Well, guess what? Your scholarship's now fake. Get your ass
Okay,
over
cool.
here.
I'll get in the portal. I'm sure I'm pretty good enough. Some other coach will get me.
Then he wants you to fake an injury.
Don't get injured in there.
Yeah.
No, it's like, not.
Did y'all do this when you were coaching?
No, I
Tell
never
a guy,
even thought
like,
about
go
doing
down?
this. The only way I would ever think about doing it is if we were on offense and we didn't get penalized if a guy got hurt and like we're trying to save time. But they penalize you if a player gets injured, right? Like, so I don't know. That thought never crossed my mind. I was just hoping.
Can y'all play the football ones again real quick so we can see some of these?
Yeah, play the Ole Miss.
Not
one.
the soccer ones.
Yeah. Thank you. Play this one. Look at this. Point. Hey, you're hurt.
Go down.
You're hurt.
Go down.
Oh my God! Sell it! Sell it. Walk limp around. It's shattered. Oh God, you shattered it.
Do this one right here with
Yeah,
Lane
play
Kiffin
this
on
one.
the sideline.
Look at Lane. He's like, you're hurt. Get down. They didn't even try to hide it. Gus Malzahn did this. Like, look at him. Oh, there he goes.
I just think it's so funny when a guy tells you to go down, he has a wrist brace on.
Yeah, like, here's Auburn. Watch. Or against Auburn. Look
See,
at
that
Ole
was
Miss.
against Auburn.
Yeah, no, I've seen Gus Malzahn do this while he was at Auburn. Like, it just, look, see, there's not even, sell me, make me believe it.
Oh, my goodness.
This is your career. You worked so hard to get to this point,
Gotta
and
get
it's
the acting
over.
class going.
But then it's not. It's a true underdog story. All right, I want to get to the phone lines here in a second, but quickly, we already named Kalen DeBoer our responsible man of the week, but let me tell you about responsible man. We don't get all our vitamins, okay? At least most of us. If you do, congrats. You're perfect. But you can use this too, all right? If you're tired of your wife or your girlfriend, or you just want to make sure your body is getting the multivitamin it needs that's packed with 33 key ingredients that I'm not smart enough to know what they are, but I know they're key. They support your immune system, sharpen your brain, they keep your heart and muscle strong. Plus, Responsible Man, it's sourced right here in the USA, baby. We get everything else shipped over here. This is not. All right, no cheap imports, no outsourcing, just good old American quality. Like the kind of football we love, and you love too. All right, we use it, we take it I'm telling you, it makes a difference. We use what sponsors us. Like, we really do.
Every sponsor.
And David, describe to them the minty flavor that's in there. Yeah, take a whiff of that.
Minty fresh.
It is. It's delicious. Most vitamins, they smell awful, right? It's like
Not this
been
one.
Stuck in a homeless person's blanket for a year and a half.
Ugh.
This one doesn't. And right now, you can take advantage of a Responsible Man's fall sale and get 50% off your order, or just $19.99 for your first order. It's really simple. Go to responsibleman.com. Use code BOOSTER. You sense a pattern here with these codes at checkout, but hurry, this deal will not last long. Remember, a strong America needs strong men, and strong men start with Responsible Man. That's responsibleman.com. Use that code BOOSTER for 50% off. Let's get to the phone lines. There's some responsible men on there, and possibly responsible women, Dave.
Yes, possibly, but let's start off with Joshua in Oklahoma. Joshua, you a man or what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to talk to you about Michael Hawkins Jr. and as an Oklahoma quarterback coming in. I watched him. I watched Arnold and was not happy at all. And then when he stepped in the Tennessee game, I was like, what is it? This guy's different. One, his decision-making is different. But two, Arnold's not going to go flip over defensive linemen to make a touchdown, let alone 2-point conversion in the Auburn game. And then I find out his dad was a cornerback for Bob Stoops. And I was like, okay, now that makes perfect sense. And why wasn't this guy the quarterback all the time?
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can count Jackson Arnold out yet, like in college football. But I think it's hard not to look and say that Hawkins just got more dog in him than Jackson Arnold does. I think Jackson Arnold is probably as talented as Hawkins Jr. is, and he's a better thrower, I think, overall from a pure passing standpoint. But when the lights come on, some cats are just different. Like, this ain't practice or 7-on-7 or media day. And when you watch Hawkins play, if I was on his team and I watch how physical he is, regardless of what position I play, if I'm middle linebacker or I'm the left guard, or hell, if I'm the holder, that makes me want to play more physical. That I want to rally around that guy, or to use a pun, circle the wagons, right? I think he gives y'all the best chance to win because he's only going to get better. And he is a dual threat guy. It's not like he's a horrible thrower. He just he needs more reps at it in a game situation. But it's hard not to look at him and be like, that dude just got more dog in him. Like, it's just, it's the truth.
No, he never saw the fear.
No.
Right? He's always known how to ride with the fear. And I will say this. I think Jackson Arnold, given the chance, would dive over two guys to score a touchdown. I think so. But I think that what the other kid brings, it just expands your offense so much from a running standpoint. You're not great offensively right now, and that kid's only going to get better with the weapons that you didn't have in the Auburn game, but you're going to have these next couple weeks. So I think this will be the kid forever at Oklahoma. I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson Arnold ends up in the portal after this.
Well, now you can play college football forever, so you're probably right. Josh, I do want to say this. Let me give you an example. Michael Hawkins Jr. went into Auburn down, 5 receivers? Like your best, pretty much, 5 receivers with an offense that was already struggling, going up against a senior quarterback that's played at Michigan State and now Auburn, been through an SEC schedule, and got outside of the first drive, basically got beat the whole game, right? Oklahoma wasn't able to find it offensively the whole game. But in the last 8 minutes in the fourth quarter, who was the one that stepped up, right? I know the defense scored a touchdown, but who was the quarterback that stepped up and owned the moment? It wasn't the older guy that's played in the Big Ten, that's played in the SEC. It was the freshman on the road down 5 wide receivers in his first ever SEC game on the road in Jordan-Hare that met the moment and made the plays. That is what would get me fired up if I'm Danny Stutzman. That is what would get me fired up if I'm Brent Venables or Luttrell or an Oklahoma fan. So that, to me, is kind of the difference.
One more thing. I'm looking at the box score here. Did you know Oklahoma, only 2 guys had rushing attempts in that game?
Yep.
Michael Hawkins Jr. and Javonte Barnes.
Yep.
Combined, they had 32 rushing attempts.
They got guts, and they clutched up. That's the difference. That's what Auburn doesn't have right now. And, Oklahoma, I don't think they're going to go on some crazy winning streak and win the SEC. But I tell you what, for your shining star, Jackson Arnold, to be replaced, I think you got a real one. I think you got a real one for sure.
Appreciate it, Joshua.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man. All right, let's go to Brian in Michigan. Brian, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How y'all doing today?
Brian, what's up?
Hey, guys. So I had a question. I know you guys it sounds like you've been touching on Michigan a little bit today. I haven't been able to call in, or I haven't been able to listen much because of work. But so some of us Michigan fans, we have just been pleading and just begging the coaching staff to try to use Donovan Edwards more in the passing game. And from some of the games that I've watched, I don't think that they've been deliberate enough about trying to get him the ball, use him as a check down, use him as a safety valve, with an offense that kind of is struggling for some playmakers right now. So my question for all you guys was, why do you think Michigan has not been more deliberate about trying to use Donovan Edwards in the pass game a little bit more?
Well, I will say that he was wide open on that rail route that I talked about, and Alex Orji decided to throw it to Colston Loveland, and that was the interception that we talked about, which it was great to see Colston Loveland come back from injury. One thing I will say, Brian, is at least they're having Kalel Mullins be the primary back now, which is one thing that I've been calling for, so that you can use Donovan Edwards more as a change of pace guy, which he's always been best at when he was behind Blake Corum and those guys. I'll tell you something else they've started doing, which I like, is seeing both those guys on the field at the same time. That creates creates an interesting look, especially if you're going to have to go on the road and play a Washington team where it may be close at the end and you need sort of I don't want to say gimmicky, but you need to go score now on a final drive.
Well, you got kind of a thunder and lightning situation going on with those two. And you can't use Donovan like Alabama used Jahmyr Gibbs fully. But I think in the screen game, in the short to intermediate passing game, and even on that rail route, on a vertical once every now and then, you should be using him like that. You need to put your best players on the field. And I think Donovan Edwards is one of your best players to find a way to get him the ball, or at least have him out there, split him out wide, have him be a threat. Make the defensive coordinator have to say, all right, we got to know where Donovan Edwards is. He was on the cover of that game for a reason. We saw what he did in the postseason last year. He can really be electric. So I'm with you a little bit there, Brian. But having them both on the field and the backfield at the same time, because look, Mullins, we can say thunder, right? But what is thunder? It rolls. Well, right? Blaine, he can move.
You and I were talking about this when it came to the Lions, right? Because you got David Montgomery, and since you brought up Jahmyr Gibbs, that's where we were talking about it, is how the Lions are using those guys. Is it per drive, or are you using Montgomery more when it gets close to the goal line? This is a different situation.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions have Jared Goff. So, I mean, you really have to pick of the litter what you want to do with Montgomery. And it is weird if you do watch the Lions. I think they just do it by drive. I'll see them in short yardage situations with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, in the red zone, they'll both be in there.
Well, I do think that they should use Donovan Edwards in the pass game. If I'm a defense, I mean, how much can you trust Orgy to get through progression? So if there's anything I'm taking away, it's probably that first progression. But I do think Donovan Edwards got a lot more hype. I think he's not as good as people think that he is. I think Cedric Mullins is the guy at Michigan. Well, Cedric Mullins needs the ball in his hands.
I agree.
Mullins possible.
Well, let me.
Mullins, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, to me, I was thinking about how would I defend Michigan. Michigan is going to go heavy personnel most of the time, which means you're going to have a heavy box. All right, you're going to have a lot of people in the box. Just having Donovan Edwards out at the slot to run a bubble could be a great out for Alex Orgy and a way to stretch a defense horizontally when you're having to fight in the phone booth. So, to me, Brian, I'm with you a little bit there.
Does Michigan win, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to go with them, but I think it's just going to be close. I think Washington's just going to have all the motivation in the world after what happened last year. They got a first-year head coach, and he's going to want them. Where are they going to get their signature win? And Michigan's they could be right for the picking. If they don't, if Michigan doesn't have all the, they just have such a small margin for error. And I mean, you could get got on the road. And so I'm going to go with Michigan, but I'm kind of antsy, guys. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I agree with that.
Brian, call in next week after the game.
Mullins is averaging 7 yards a game.
Yeah.
And they've got to run it.
I'm telling you, man.
They've got to run it. That's the scariest thing about that.
Man, he's so talented. Woo. He's so talented. All right, let's go to Kyle in Atlanta. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thanks, Kyle.
I wanted to talk about this year's Auburn team, a big Auburn fan here, and compare it to Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss team. Similar era. And Kiffin took that Ole Miss team in 2019, was a 4-8 team, and led them to a 10-win season in a 2-year turnaround.
Yeah.
So obviously Freeze isn't looking at that kind of success this year. So my question is, what did Lane do that Hugh isn't doing? And is Hugh's strategy going to be better for the long term, do you think?
Well, again, Kyle, like I've said, and I appreciate you calling in, brother, but I think Hugh Freeze is going to get it right. Because I think Hugh Freeze is going to get good enough players. Just look at the way they're recruiting right now. Look at what they're able to do last year. You get good enough players in there, you can hide deficiencies of being a little undisciplined. You don't want that. Or not, handling the clock right, or making the right coaching decisions most of the time. The problem right now is, I think Lane Kiffin's teams, as crazy as it sounds, were more disciplined and more coached up in that second year than what this team at Auburn is. And you have and you got to look at quarterback though, right? And it's been a problem with Hugh Freeze in his career with turnovers, right? Our buddy Brooks Austin put out a tweet on X saying, like, you look at the amount of seasons with a bunch of turnovers, Hugh Freeze is way up there. But when you run an offense like what Hugh runs, the quarterback has got to be a good player. Auburn didn't have a good player at quarterback. They don't have a clutch player. He can do some good things, like in that Oklahoma game. But then when you blow it at the end, and there's plenty of blame to go around, but I think Auburn's going to get good enough players in there where it masks that. Where I'm worried, and like I said earlier, is that Auburn doesn't look coached up very well. They do stupid things. And you would think if you're under-personneled that you would, and I'm not saying the coaches aren't harping on it, but you can harp on it, that's great. If it doesn't show up on Saturday, then it's a problem, right? And it's always some other unit, right? This time it's the offense. This time it's the defense. This time it's the special teams, or it's a combination of that. The thing that worries me the most right now is that Auburn doesn't do the little things right. Hopefully they get in enough talent, and I think they will, to be able to mask that, and maybe that gets fixed, because there's a thing about better players. Sometimes they're just disciplined by nature. It's just a tough time right now because they don't have either of those, Kyle.
And I would say this. I mean, you look at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Ole Miss had Matt Corral.
Yeah. God,
the year before when they lost all those games, the offense was putting up 40 points a weekend. Ole Miss just couldn't stop anybody, right? And that's going to get better and better on time with Lane Kiffin. So a lot of difference in having Matt Corral on the wing and Peyton Thorne.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
man.
Kyle. It's going to get better, man, I promise.
Thank you, man. All right,
Not this weekend.
Let's go to Pokey Tech. Maybe this weekend.
No.
Pokey Texan, what's up, man?
Hey, hold on. Let me get y'all off truck phone so I don't sound like Voltar down in a well with a basket in the lotion.
It puts it on the skin, Pokey.
Anyway, fellas, my Pokes are obviously out of the championship picture, so I'm going to be all Ags and Astros the rest of the year. I tell you, Marcel Reed is going to be the starter until he gets crushed by an LSU linebacker here in a couple of weeks, and then Connor Wegman's going to have to carry us. What do you think?
It's not going to be LSU that crushes him on defense. I don't think Harold Perkins is
I tell you,
around.
when you watch Marcel Reed play, that's the thing you worry about with young guys that can run. Like, we were just talking about Hawkins Jr. from Oklahoma, just putting his body on the line at will, and that's great. But, you keep accumulating those hits. But Pokey, I mean, he's done a really good, he hadn't turned the ball over. He looks like he protects himself pretty decent. I think this A&M offensive line is good enough to give him a chance. And when you got guys that can run like that run smart, you can get away with a lot of stuff. So I hope not, because, look, Marcel Reed has done an incredible job. You got a big test against Missouri at home this weekend, but he's forced Elko's hand, man. You got to play this cat.
Yeah, like, the thing, when it comes to dual threat guys, it's like, look, obviously you don't want to get hit that much. You want to get down, but this is the life you chose.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be this guy. I'm watching Ryan Leonard get killed every game. And what does he keep doing? Strapping it up again for a Saturday. That kid from Oklahoma was getting murdered last week. Murdered last week. What is he going to do again? Strap it up every Saturday. I don't want to. Look, Jane Daniels did it at LSU. I watched Jane Daniels get killed.
He tried to jump into Jalen Carter.
Didn't know how to slide, and he's doing it right now in the league. So I get it. You want to protect a guy. But, buddy, you chose this life. Yeah. All right? So we're going to get out here on Saturday, and we're going to live it.
I buy the optimism. That's exactly what I needed to hear. One more little thing. We knew we were going to lose the game against Scooball yesterday.
Yeah.
He's going to win the Cy Young. But I don't think the Tigers have they've got a good bullpen, but I don't think their starting pitching is as good as the Astros. And I think
What's the score right now? They're playing right now?
I haven't been able to look. Yeah, they're playing.
It was 0-0 in the second when we started. Can we pull that score up real quick? Because if y'all win tonight, I think you win.
0-0.
It's still 0-0. What inning we in?
If we can win the game with Brown on the mound today.
Into the fifth.
Yeah, it's into the fifth.
0-0
God, the Tigers staff is showing up. Y'all win tonight, I think you win the series.
Awesome.
Thanks, Pokey.
Be blessed, and R.I.P. my Pokes.
It's all right, man. It's all right.
Shout out to my boy Chief in the chat. I know he's not here today, but shout out to Chief. Sorry, man. Our Pokes are done for.
That's all right. There's always next year, and Gunny's going to have that beautiful mullet.
Live to fight another day, brother.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to David in Tampa. David, talk to us, man.
Well, first of all, Jake, you saying that you're a part Italian does not surprise me one bit, because only an Italian could pull off a hairstyle like that.
Believe me, it's not by choice. I'd rather have a hat on.
That's a fupa.
That's not
that's
what
not
a
what
fupa is.
That's right.
Why can't you figure this out? Here's the funny part. My hair, like me wearing that, I would never wear this in real life, like outside of this show. I would never. I mean, it looks. I think
good,
it,
man.
I think it looks good. I think it looks good. But like, dude, I'm gonna go home and put on an Oilers hoodie and my hat. Like, this is for TV. Like, I just put on what they tell me to put on.
Fair enough. Well, gentlemen, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. The main thing being my Bucks, and the secondary thing being Jaden Daniels. I'm sure you've caught on that I've talked about the Bucks way more than I've talked about the Gators lately, and that's
I know why.
I like to talk about good teams. Yes, I like to talk about good teams, not scrub teams, right? So obviously, we're playing Thursday against the Falcons. We're 3-1 atop the NFC South, and things are looking pretty good right now. And Jake, I recall you saying something last year about adversity, and as you guys may recall, last year at one point we were 3-5, and then 4-7 on the season, looking like we were headed for a top 5 pick. Well, I firmly believe that stretch of bad football we had was actually the best thing that could have happened to this group, right? Because when you face adversity like that, you have one of two choices. You can either let it break you, or you can let it shape you. And I really believe that that stretch shaped shaped this team into what they are now. And ever since then, they've been one of the hottest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, well, it's like they say, adversity isn't just a river in Egypt.
Is it a river in Egypt?
Exactly. I thought that was denial, but
it is. But who's keeping count?
Baker. What's your prediction for Thursday? Baker. What's your prediction for Thursday, David?
My prediction for Thursday, Cone, is I'm going to say the Bucks win 30-24 in overtime. Baker Mayfield tosses a touchdown to Chris Godwin in overtime, and we win 30-24.
All right, we're going to clip that, and if that happens, David, we're calling the FBI.
No, sometimes it just blows my mind. Mike Evans is like 43 years old.
No, he's incredible.
And nobody can guard him.
Yeah, he was running around with Johnny Manziel.
Reliable.
Him and Chris Godwin
got that old whiz.
are both 40, and no one can guard him.
Just throw it up.
But David, great call, buddy.
David.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right, let's go to H. Wade in Alabama. H. Wade, what's going on?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
What's up, dude?
brother?
Dude, I got to talk about the Braves for just a second real quick. I know I'm going to catch some
flack for
this. Y'all may disagree, and that's fine. I know we have plenty of injuries. I know that if you ever wanted to make excuses for a season, this season you probably could. So I'm going to try to talk about the overall playoff culture for the Braves for the past 20 or so years, and not just this season. But I am sick and tired of watching the Braves come out in the postseason and look like they don't belong. Whether you've got injuries and you just played a doubleheader the night before or not, it was an exact replay from 2023, 2022, 2019, Game 5 against the Cardinals, 2018, 2013, 2011, 2010, 2009, whatever. I went back last night and looked at some stats. Since 2002, which is really since I started watching the Braves, since 2002, that's 22 seasons, they've made the playoffs 14 times. That's insane. That's awesome. Love it. They've gone home first round 12 out of those 14 times.
And guess what?
H. Which doesn't even count.
H, guess what? It gets worse. Go back and see how many times they won the division with Greg Maddux and them and didn't do anything.
Hey.
It gets even worse.
It gets better, though. Tonight, Max Fried on the mound. Yeah. You take a money line.
God, that Padres bet minus 1.5 on the run line yesterday hit like a
that home run.
Train.
Who was it? Tatis? Second that home run.
Well, it's like they faced. I mean, they faced Gambit on the mound yesterday. That was an incredible performance.
Well, I think it's a miracle that the Braves were somehow able to hold them to 4 runs. But it doesn't matter who pitches, whether it's Chris Sale or my grandma. If you just score 0 runs, the Mets had to play a doubleheader on Monday. The Mets are banged up. They've got Kodai Senga and Jeff McNeil on the injured list. They went to the Brewers and said, I don't care who we are, who the higher seed is. We're going to smack you, and we're going to compete. The Braves look like deer in headlights. It was absolutely embarrassing to watch. And we got dudes who don't even want to pitch. Chris Sale, go home and do some pull-ups and some push-ups for once in your life. And stop looking like a walking cadaver. Maybe your back wouldn't be hurt all the freaking time. And I'll tell you something else. If I have to watch Orlando Arcia have one more at-bat in the postseason, I'm going to take every Braves thing I have and throw it out the window.
I don't blame you.
If you combined Orlando Arcia's and Marcell Ozuna's IQs, they still could not find a way to hang a level picture. They can find some hobo off the streets of San Diego to bat better than Orlando Arcia. It's sickening.
I'm glad you're getting this out. I will say we all know Rule 17, play like a champion, but unfortunately, H, I think what's that? It ends tonight.
I hope they're listening. I hope they're listening to you, H. Wade, because it's now or never. Tonight or never.
True.
Hey,
I appreciate it, buddy.
H. Wade, this one's for you as you go, brother.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let us cry together.
Isn't it funny when you call a show and explain it to a Reds fan and a Rangers fan about?
Get out of here, Blaine.
Isn't it funny when that happens?
Get out of here. All right, let's go to Mike in Alberta. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, boys, how's it going?
What's up?
Hey, so Blaine, I'm a Colorado fan, but I'm man enough to admit that during the playoffs last year when they got knocked out, I caught a busy weather fever. My wife managed to grab Game 6 tickets to the Western Conference Final against Dallas, and she tells me that she doesn't want to be sitting next to the only guy not wearing orange and blue. Do you know what I did?
What'd you do?
I told her to go with her boyfriend because she obviously doesn't love me anymore.
Damn right, brother. You damn right.
Jake's house after the show. You need to grab that Cincinnati jersey. You need to bury it in the backyard. And if he's not willing, maybe you got to put him in the hole too.
I've been screaming that. I've been screaming that since I saw him come back with it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Look,
at least
Jake's a big recency bias.
Oh, well, that's funny. How many Yankees games you been to? How many Yankees games?
Hey, we were poor growing up. Sorry, my father never bought me one.
We weren't poor growing up.
I was a child.
I was the oldest. Tickets. We lived in a trailer when I was young. When you were older, Dad had an oil job. We lived in a 2.5
And you know what? That makes it worse.
I don't want to hear
that makes it worse that I didn't get any Yankees tickets, to be honest. I never had that opportunity, but I will tell you this.
Your dad was looking out for you.
Jake goes to France, he comes back, Sacre Bleu, everything, goes to a Reds game. The Reds are so great, this, that, and that.
It was
David
great.
with the Rangers. I'm just telling you.
I have principled reasons for that.
I'm just telling you, all right, no matter what, okay, I'm 10 toes for my team. Okay, no matter where I can go.
They see it in you.
I can go to Atlanta.
They put you on social media.
They can try to put me on an NIL deal. It won't happen. All right, it won't happen. I know where I stand. I'll dig my boots in the ground.
10 toes for them. They're not one toe for you. They're Dion's foot for you.
It's not about the guys.
The Yankees are Dion's foot for you.
It's not about the guys who make the tweets, all right? It's people behind the scenes.
Great call, Mike.
Matters.
Look what you've done.
Love you.
Great call, Mike.
See you, Mike.
Talk to you later. Bye.
See you, bud.
All right, let's go to Steven in North Carolina. Steven, what's on your mind?
What's up, fellas?
What up, man?
So, I got two things. First off, can Clemson – see, I've called in a couple times, long-time listener, few-time caller, diehard Clemson fan. I was worried after the first Georgia game a little bit, but not as much anymore. Now I'm seeing as we are just trashing NC State, App State, and then Stanford. And after watching the Miami and Virginia Tech game, the Miami defense is inept. And I know y'all been hitting on this ever since the game, but they are inept. They couldn't stop a terrible Virginia Tech offense, which makes me think our guys like Barrett Carter, Sammy Brown, Wayne Woodaz, A.J. Terrell's brother, they're going to absolutely
Peter Woods. That's where I'm at right now. Clemson played Georgia. We watched what Georgia did to them. I think it told me that Clemson's got a pretty good defense. I know the dam broke in the second half. I think Miami's really, really talented offensively. I think Cam Ward, NFL-wise, maybe the best NFL prospect as a quarterback in the country. But I'm worried about Miami's defense. So the question is, and David said it, who's the more complete team? Who's the more complete team? Because I can't on one hand be like, well, Clemson hadn't played anybody and they're destroying them. They did play Georgia, right? And they got beat up pretty good. But if you watch that game, you understand how it went. How much do we really, really know about Miami? Other than Cam Ward's a dog, Restrepo's a dog, they got some pieces on offense. But do we know as much about Miami as we do about Clemson? That's why it's a great argument. That's why we let off the show with it. I don't know.
That's the thing too. How much do we really know about the Clemson offense? Because we looked like a completely different team after the Georgia game, but I feel like that's because we actually got our freshmen involved. And I know that would be a really rough game for the freshmen to start off. Bryant Wesco and T.J. Moore and those guys. But it's just is this the real Clemson against the NC State and against the App State, or is the real Clemson against Georgia?
Well,
Georgia's still really good.
They are
still very good. I was worried about our playoff opportunity after I saw how badly Alabama was just absolutely whooping on Georgia in the first half. But then it made me feel a lot better. But in honest, complete honesty, I think we are going. I think we're going 11-1, and I think we beat Miami in the ACC championship.
That would not surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Miami ended up after beating Virginia Tech running the table and win the ACC championship. That's what makes it fascinating. And we're going to
look over South Carolina, man. I'm telling you. Don't look over South Carolina. That's not just a walk in the park down there with the guys they have running around on defense.
Well, the good news is that South Carolina is not in the conference. So if you lose that game and you handle business in the conference, then the question becomes, you're 10-2. Who are you playing in the conference championship? And is that a must-win to get you in? Because you won't get into large at 10-3. I don't know because we got to see it play out. But that's a great call, Stephen. Please call in again,
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, man. All right, let's go to the last caller of the day. Let's go to Cameron in Florida. What's going on?
Hey, guys.
What's up, Cameron?
So, the Braves started A.J. Smith-Shawver last night. Why are we starting that dude over Ian Anderson? And whoever made that decision should be fired.
Well, if I'd have told you that you would have given up 4 runs to the Padres before the game, would you have taken it?
Probably.
So to me, I don't think it was a bad choice. You can't not score a run.
Yeah.
You can't leave runners on base. The Braves lost that game because of offense last night, not because of pitching and defense. Like the caller called in before, it didn't matter if Cy Young was on the mound for the Braves. You scored 0 runs, right? There's an offense and a defense. And with what happened with the Mets, with the Braves just having to deplete everybody, and they should have, because if you lose that second game, you're not making the playoffs. I would have taken 4 runs total in spades before the game started yesterday. So I actually think it was the right choice.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, but I really thought Ian Anderson would be the guy to pitch. I just did not expect
Who's going today? Freed's going
Max
today.
is going today.
Right.
Now or
So
never.
I wonder,
you need it. You need it like you've never needed it.
Cameron, give me a score tonight. What do you think? Braves, Padres, give me a score.
2-1.
Braves? I hope you're right.
Oh, and by the way,
appreciate
the Tigers just scored, and they are winning 1-0 right
1-0? God, the Astros. Are y'all going to get blanked twice?
God, I'm just ready for football to be every day.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Cameron. Thanks for calling,
Cameron.
man.
Great call, Cam.
All right. 2-0 yesterday, but nobody's talking about it, including me. So we're going to go right back to I think the Orioles bounced back. They got blanked by the Royals yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
All right, so I think the Orioles going to win on the run line, -1.5. That's at +142. I really like that number. And then why would I not take the Padres again? I don't trust the Braves offensively or defensively. I don't trust Max Fried. I don't. Professor Blister, I don't trust him. Give me the Padres. Fathers. -1.5, +185.
You might be onto something over there. You might be onto something with this guy.
I like making money.
I hear
go to
you.
more Reds games.
Okay, well, you know what? 0-2 yesterday. That's funny. That is funny. 0-2 yesterday, taking the Braves and the Orioles, so I'm going right back at them. Braves -102, Orioles -155. You have to have it.
All right, bring my bets up here. It's 1 day away, guys. 1 day away. We'll have to never.
Man, that looks like me.
Never have to do that. It does look like you, Jake. All right, give me
Blaine's
Bet's money
bet.
line +120 because why not? And give me Padres -1.5 going off at +130. Me and that Reds fans over there are going to win some money tonight.
Ace, what do you got? I thought it'd be me again. Brewers money line -120. And then the Astros, you better hope. Hope on hope. Money line -180. Dude,
Bounce back.
You want to talk about like a great story? If the Tigers win this series, I'm going to be so pumped for our buddy Mark Ryan and Tigers fans. They haven't been this excited. The Lions have been balling.
Lions.
What a great time to be a Detroit sports
Detroit's
fan.
back.
Are the Red Wings, are they doing anything? Do we know?
I think they're down right now.
I think they're down too. All right, let's go to the chat here.
Let's get to these donations. $2 donations from Laura. Thank you, Laura. Happy birthday, Sister Riggs.
Oh, let's go.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. See you this weekend, girlie.
Let's go to the $20 donation from the Serb. He says, so I'm just getting into college football. First game I watched was a GA versus Bama game.
Oh, God.
And there's just like so much to the game, teams, players, and culture, etc. Where does one begin with catching up? Love the show. Keep slaying, Kings.
You begin by watching Crain and Company, and you end by watching Crain and Company. But what a great game to start. I'm going to tell you, they're not all going to be like that. Yeah. Okay, you got to do great start. Great start, but college football is the greatest sport. Football is the greatest sport on the planet. College football, I think. Love the NFL, right? Love all football. But college football is the best.
$5 donation from Darrell. Appreciate it, Darrell. Says, guys, what's going on with my Miami defense? They seem to get worse and worse. One of the worst defense from adapting at halftime. Yeah. What's y'all's thoughts?
Well, Blaine, that's what you've been talking about the most. And I love Coach Guidry. Like, he's a smart guy. He's very, very well respected in the coaching community. But it's like they say, you know what, we're just playing man because we can't do anything else. Maybe they can't. Maybe they tried to mix in a bunch of zone, and in practice they're just busting, and the communication ain't great. But at some point, and getting Ruben Baines back is nice, right? But at some point, you got to get out of man if you're getting torched. But against USF, you had the same guy Blaine was over at my house, like, here he goes, just wide open. So they've got to make some adjustments. You hope that front seven can get after the offense enough to be able to hide it. But if we're talking championship, which that's what Miami fans are talking about, they ain't talking about going 9-3.
Practice.
Yeah, that's not what they're talking about. Winning the ACC and having a chance to get Miami back, getting off the plane for the Natty wearing camouflage pants, dog.
Let's go to a $5 donation from the Ark. What's up, man? He says, hey, guys, I know y'all don't do politics, but what were your thoughts on the debate last night?
We don't do politics, but I think you probably know how we feel about it. Let's just put it that way.
I thought it was a healthy debate.
I thought it was
friendliest debate I've ever seen.
Well, to me, that's what a debate should be like.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just like a high school, rap battle against each other. Like, it was like, oh, well, okay. Oh, boy, was cooking, though. You know what I'm talking about.
$5 donation from Tim. Appreciate it, Tim. I know y'all want an MLB team in Nashville, so please take the Brewers. I can't deal with them choking every playoffs. Joke team, sell it, get out of my state.
We'll take them. Sold.
Let's go to $5 donation from the Falcon, 642. Y'all need to come to the Holy War and bring a Booster Club tailgate. I'll bring the Wagyu, signed the Drizzler.
The Drizzler?
I love everything about that donation. I would love to go out to the BYU-Utah game. That would be awesome.
The Drizzler.
Especially right now, it's what BYU's doing.
Let's go to a $10 donation from JD. Appreciate it, man. David, not all soccer players fake injuries. At the O, we used to try to get as close to a yellow card as possible. We played soccer how football players would physical play football.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I played soccer.
I look at, here's what I say, at least when they fake injuries, they sell it. I mean, I watched a guy from Portugal. You thought somebody shot a cannon in his leg. I mean, it was this,
That makes it worse.
I don't know. At least you're trying.
That makes it worse.
$5 donation from The Memes. He says, hey, guys, did you see Ryan Williams change his profile pic to Michael Vick holding up a bulldog on Solskjaer?
I did.
After beating Georgia.
I did, and you know what? I love animals. We have 5 at my house. I'm basically Matt Damon, and we bought a zoo. But, I mean, I can sit here and laugh at a joke. It was awful what Michael Vick and them did to the dogs, but I thought it was kind of funny. But the real thing is, Ryan Williams doubled his NIL evaluation after that game. It doubled.
His evaluation, or did he have
On three does like the evaluation of like how much you're worth?
Yeah.
It doubled after that Georgia game.
I actually heard he's holding out until he gets more money.
Oh, is he redshirting now?
Smart.
Wait, that's what's crazy. He could redshirt.
Yeah.
He could.
He could still redshirt. That's why.
All right, let's go to a $2 donation from the Crain & Co. He says, Cone, it's time.
What?
The Dolphins need you.
Is this my chance to live my dream? My childhood dream.
Jalen Waddle was like, trade me on the bench.
Like, if you just need somebody, if you need somebody who's to go out there and throw interceptions but not charge you quite as much money, I'll do it.
Are we going to pretend like Devontae Adams not going to the Chiefs?
Is he going to the Chiefs?
He's going to go to the Chiefs.
Is Devontae Adams going to the Chiefs?
Now that Rashee Rice is hurt, 100% he's going to the Chiefs. We don't even need to wait this thing out.
$10 donation from Mr. D. Said, didn't get a chance to talk about JD, but Jake, I agree with you what you said about him. He showed us what he can do with NFL receivers at LSU, and the Bears have a great receiving core. How is he not the top pick?
Best quarterback in the draft, Jaden Daniels. And look, it's still early. I like Caleb. I think Caleb does some good things, but how do you not look at all these rookie quarterbacks and be like, that one?
Let's go to a $10 donation from Justin. Thank you, Justin. Blaine, please tell your brother to check his DMs. Hey, dude. Hey.
Yo.
Check your DMs.
I will.
Have serious football questions and coaching and plays. And David, you jinxed Auburn with that damn get off my lawn and they mercy rule ruled us.
Yeah, I'm the jinx. Did you not learn anything from Tennessee fans? Remember after this, I picked Auburn to go to the national championship in basketball, and everybody's blaming me because y'all lost to, who was it, Dartmouth? They'll use a Dartmouth or Yale or somebody like that. Come on, man, stop making excuses. Y'all need to step up and win some football games. Don't blame me.
Thank you, David.
$5 donation from Ashton. Says, hey, guys, I don't know if you talked about this, but Peyton Thorne said he'd do that stuff 10 out of 10 times. # we're cooked.
Exactly. Yeah, and here's what I want to say about that, because I was trying to explain to people on, and this is just never works, but on X yesterday, because some people were like, well, if you think that he is saying he would throw a pick 10 out of 10 times, then you're dense. Well, buddy, let me explain something to you. Oklahoma ran that exact same coverage earlier. It's a drop coverage off a blitz look where you walk up the backers and you drop them in the slant window. They did it earlier in the game when Auburn was in the red zone, and the linebackers should have picked it. So later in the game, they did the exact same thing. And pre-snap, yes, it looks like zero coverage. But you can't make up your mind where you're going to throw the ball before the snap. Why do you think defenses disguise coverages? You can't do that. You can have an idea. David, you know this better than anybody. But when the ball snapped and you realize, oh no, this isn't what I thought it was, then you have to go through progressions and see the bubble. So by saying you would do that 10 out of 10 times after knowing the result, they tricked you into throwing that. So you are saying you would be okay with being tricked not once, not twice, but 10 times in a row. That's why that was such an asinine thing to say. They tricked him, guys, because he made up his mind where he was going with the ball before the snap. There's levels to this. It's like walking up to the batter's box. I'm going to swing at the first pitch no matter where it is every time. Yeah, you may get a hit. You may hit a home run. But over the long term, over 4 quarters, it's a death sentence. So you're dense because you don't understand football.
Didn't you hear I jinxed him, Jake?
Yeah.
Okay.
God, I'm so sick of the casuals, man. God, it's so frustrating.
Brick killed a guy.
Yeah, you should get a trident.
$5 donation from Welcome to Heaven. He says, indeed, after today, we will have entered heaven. 55 days of straight football. Also, the Braves are the Dallas Cowboys of baseball.
Well, at least we won a World
Series. We got a World
Braves
Series.
got a Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl equivalent.
Braves got a Super Bowl.
Braves got a Super Bowl, dude. Nate Oates.
$2
donation from Matt. What's up, Matt? He says, can you tell my cuz Dan Gleesack happy birthday?
Dan, happy birthday, brother. Ain't no sack like a Gleesack, boy.
All right, let's go to, I believe we have another donation from Falcon. Appreciate it. $5 donation. Auburn fans have hope. I saw Hugh Freeze this summer at the Napoleon Dynamite Festival recruiting a quarterback who can throw a ball over the mountains.
Yeah. Talking about old Uncle Rico.
I didn't know Joe
dude
Milton
can
was
sell
back in
Tupperware, can he?
All right, if you donated today, guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Let's get to this poll. Who will win this game Saturday? Texas A&M or Missouri?
Ooh, this is a good one.
I'm going with Missouri, boys. Missouri, I don't know what they said. I'll just say 55%, but I'm taking Missouri.
I'm going A&M 52.7%.
How close is
Texas A&M 53%. Missouri 47%.
I was
No, I'm not. I'm not going to miss your donation. $5 donation from the Booster Club Cards. Another day not getting through on phones. I'm going to keep trying. You keep trying, brother. Buckeyes, the tailgate. Coming to the tailgate this weekend. One more thing.
Trivia.
Rest in peace, Pete Rose.
I know, that trivia. I'm coming for you. All right, we appreciate you guys. Shout out to Ketone IQ, Prize Picks, and Responsible Man. Make sure you check that out. Got Ari Wasserman from On 3 coming on tomorrow. We're getting ready again. Tomorrow we start the 55-day march of football every single day. Can't wait to tell my wife about it. But until then, we're going. That was tough. Gone. God, Lee! Gone. Get out of here. Go.